to the small and medium farm holders and farming community. It only perpetuates the struggles and sufferings of the farmers. That is our charitable attitudes towards the farmers. Charitable attitudes allows us to go ahead with our own life, with our own system, without worrying about the pathetic human conditions of the farmers. Our conscience is appeased by charitable activities. In Laudato Si, encyclical number 93, it is said, a type of development which did not respect and promote human rights, present social, economical and political, including the rights of nations and of peoples, would not be really worthy of man. I find it excellent. With this perspective, let us reflect together the biblical message to end the crisis. In the light of Church's encyclicals, we would discern on what could be the stand of agrarian theology. Let us start with the biblical message to end the crisis. How did they try to end the crisis? The Israelites of Old Testament time had dreadful experience of being slaves in Egypt. They were forced to produce excess food as forced agricultural laborers. They built storehouses to keep and store the excess food, as it is happening now. The book of Exodus unveils the stressful Babylonian captivity, their horrifying story of misery and indignity. And they struggled for total liberation from the enchained slavery. Their Yahweh was a God of liberation from the dehumanizing system of slavery. Hence, Jeremiah sums the story, you brought your people, Israel, out of the land of Egypt, from the slavery. In Genesis 1:31, God saw everything that He made, and behold, it was very good. The Israelites had the wisdom to respect the significance of every human being and all elements of nature. The air, the water, the land, the biodiversity, the forest, etc. They understood the historical responsibility of every human being to have domain over the earth, Genesis 1:28, to till it and to keep it, the Garden of Eden, as it is said in Laudato Si. Keeping refers to not to over-exploit the earth, but in view of the future generation, deal with the land kindly, gently, lovingly, as dealing with your own mother, your own sister. In the contemporary pyramidal social structure of Jesus' time, He identified Himself at the lowest strata as a son of a carpenter. Is He not the carpenter, the son of Mary? Mark 6:3. The evangelists record that how the marginalized society of their time experienced cruelty of the ruling class in Jesus' time. It is depicted in the life of Jesus from birth to death. Matthew 2:13 records, "Get up, take the child and his mother and escape into Egypt and stay there until I tell you." The same Matthew points out that same Jesus was stripped before crucifixion. Matthew 27:28. The historical Jesus not only identified himself with the exploited community, he took a historical responsibility as the Israelites in the Old Testament by saying, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me." For what? To bring the good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim liberty to captives. Luke 4:18. He knew how the rulers and the then religious leaders were minting money at the expense of the poor. So he called the last Jewish ruler, Herod, as fox. "Go and tell the fox," Luke records it nicely, 13:32. "What do you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites, you are like whitewashed tombs, serpents and broods of vipers. You are full of hypocrisy and wickedness within." Matthew 23:28. Storming into the temple in Jerusalem, his destined place, Jerusalem, Jesus began to drive out the merchants. Luke records 19:45. He overturned the tables of money changers and the stools of those who sold pigeons. What an audacity! He despised the oppressive and crippling economic system. His heart embraced the poor, the lost coin, the lost sheep, the lost son. Those are the despised of that time. He yearned for a society of equality, of brotherhood, which is symbolized in the Last Supper event. "Take this and share it among yourselves." He redefines the social and political system after washing the feet of his disciples. He said, "The kings of the Gentiles rule over them as lords, and those who oppress them call themselves benefactors. But among you, it must not be like that. Let the greatest among you become as the youngest, as leaders, as the servants." Luke 22:25-26. What is the destiny of the church? Being servant of the farmer community, what is the message in the Agrarian theology? I try to reflect the Agrarian theology a little. The Catholic social teaching, CST, seeks to enlighten, inspire, and guide moral reform on social matters. Since 1891, this body of official church teachings has linked matters of faith with matters of justice in the world, social, political, economic, and most recently, environmental. Beginning with Leo XIII's Rerum Novarum, known in English as the condition of labor, dealt with the social and economic issues. Paul VI Populorum Progressio on the development of peoples, aiming the well-being of the whole persons and integral development. CST is increasingly focused on global issues. Every 3 years since 2003, the Holy See and Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace have issued important letters outlining the Church's position on matters of human and environmental well-being. Pope Francis, in his recent encyclical Laudato Si, based on human ecology, describes how human beings must defend nature. Now, in the Old Testament time, the early pharaohs were believed to be gods or divine beings in human forms. Under their power, the Israel was often plunged into life and death struggles.
5 minutes more.
Yes, I will do that in 5 minutes. In the New Testament time, Herod despised the Jews and hated the religion. The Jews themselves had no voice in the government of their lands. The land of New Testament was ruled from Macedonians who were considered foreign tyrants by the peoples over whom they ruled. Similar to Old and New Testament, money and wealth oriented transnational corporate system tyrannically monopolizes the whole world market, including the domain of agriculture. Unscrupulously, corporate politics is established in almost all countries, inclusive of India. Today, what is the message of agrarian theology to the excruciating condition of the farmers? In the light of the Gospel and the Old Testament, the agrarian theology proposes the following points as the way out from the agrarian crisis. Running short of time, I have put down only few points here. Eliminate all sorts of injustice and all forms of domination in the global, regional, economical, political, religious, and cultural levels. In the agricultural sector, a way out is the corporate model must be replaced by human ecology. In the first stage, the ongoing petrochemical based and the newly emerging GM or transgenic technology must be replaced by organic methods with more developed technology, not necessarily be very traditional one. Restructure the world order by ending the veto powers of the 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council and empower all member countries, 195 member countries, and decisions must be taken on the basis of simple majority, not by just 5 veto powers. It will set an example of the new world order of real democracy, people-based democracy. Reorganize WTO, WB, IMF on the basis of substituting the paradigm of liberal economy, globalization of free market perspective by environmental sustainability. 1. Equity. Second, the difference between rich and the poor must not be more than 1:5. We must try to reduce it. It is the right of every human being living on earth. Eco-human friendly productivity. Whatever is against, whatever will be affecting their environment or the human being's wealth or health, that productivity must be totally stopped. That type of industries must be banned. Anything that would destroy and deteriorate and degrade our environment, our human health must not be allowed into the country. People-led democracy and all-sided transparency. These 5 elements that we would like to propose for the new agrarian theology. The United Nations General Assembly should set up a high-powered United Nations Sustainable Development Council to act as a global authority by integrating national development models for combating agricultural crisis, global warming, conservation, and promotion of the environmental and human resources. As a conclusion, a long history of agrarian crisis can only be ended with not just small changes here, there, locally, and all that. It's by a system change. An unfair, unjust, global, profit-oriented, money-oriented corporate model has led to the point of collapse of Mother Earth and production of healthy food, human beings and our neighbors, birds, animals, and all other biodiversity. Thus, agrarian theology stands for system change and promotes eco-human friendly global model to end the agrarian crisis.